Depression touches the lives of thousands of Canadian children. Today, let's pause and recognize that youth mental health is a growing concern, with about 2% of children and up to 8% of adolescents affected by major depressive disorder. Nearly 1 in 5 Canadians will experience a diagnosis with a mental illness by age 25, and 70% will experience symptoms before turning 18. Behind these numbers are real kids, struggling with sadness, isolation, and uncertainty. Social pressures, bullying, and family challenges all compound the weight they carry. When childhood depression is overlooked, it can shape their lives for years to come. Welcome to Beyond the Surface. Today we're going to be talking about depression in children, and I'm so glad you're here for our conversation. And today we have a familiar face. I want to welcome Dr. Lewis. Welcome back, Dr. Lewis.
Thank you. Thank you for having me back.
It's such a pleasure to have you for such an important topic. And before we dive in, we're going to watch a story of someone who's describing a child experiencing depression. Let's watch it together.
I'm so worried about her. My little girl is too young to be so sad all the time. What could possibly be wrong? At first I thought it was just a mood or a phase, but this doesn't seem to be going away. Except for when she's suddenly frustrated with me and over little things, which seems to happen more than it used to. I miss her smiling face. She used to be much brighter than lately. She used to enjoy spending time together. Now it seems like she's unable to enjoy anything. She's even said that she's not good for anything. She's clearly very angry, but there's no way I can let her skip school. I'm really concerned. I wish I understood her better. I wish I knew what was going on. I would say it was depression, but can kids get depressed?
Welcome back. So we just watched a mother reflecting on her child's mental health journey and potential symptoms of depression and things like that. What does depression look like in a child in the daily life, I would say?
Well, there are some similarities with what we see in adults, but then there are some differences. So I'll just touch on the similarities first, and then we could talk about some of the differences. So we could see depressed mood. But what can also happen is that we may see irritability, especially in teens. And then with smaller children, what we may see is tantruming behavior, or because many of them don't have the words to express what they're going through. So whatever emotion is happening for them, then it comes out in acting out behaviors. So you may see acting out behaviors, or you may see withdrawing behaviors. So it doesn't have to be just sadness that we're seeing. Remember, our children and teens are growing, they're becoming more self-aware, and they're growing in their emotional intelligence, and at that time maybe they don't have the words. They don't have the where, how to express it, and so we see it coming out a little bit differently than just sadness.
I really appreciate how you're saying that it could be acting out or irritability, because those are signs that we think they're common for a child. And sometimes they could be signs of something underlying that's not well with that child or teenager.
Right. We could see loss of interest or pleasure in activities that the child once liked. So if you have a child who is interested in sports or art or coloring, and then we're seeing the child doesn't want to color anymore. The things that they used to love to do, maybe they like to play with their friends, they don't want to play with their friends anymore, or they don't want to try out for that school play, or for the smaller ones, the toys they have, nothing at all interests them anymore. So we're seeing that there's no pleasure in life. So we're the things that used to bring hope or meaning or fun, they are not doing those things anymore, or they don't hold as much interest for them anymore. You may see sleep disturbances, so sleeping way too much or not sleeping enough. So, but what we're looking for is we're looking for a combination of these. So it could be one thing. You see one thing, that's not it. It has to be a combination of factors.
That makes sense.
That would then you will say it's diagnosable, and we're looking at maybe fatigue, loss of energy. Some children may start talking about like, I can't do anything. I'm not good at anything. I'm not good enough. I can't. So children who used to try, or who used to want to explore, you see they're not exploring anymore. A lot of self-doubt coming in, and a lot of shying away from participating in activities or exploring new things. You may see impaired concentration, so it may be impacting their schoolwork. If they're in elementary, high school, you may see impacting their schoolwork, not getting assignments done on time, forgetting to do assignments, not having the energy to do assignments, the motivation to do assignments, maybe not even wanting to go to school, or going to school and they're not, paying attention. So the thing with children is that it takes a village. So we need the teachers to be paying attention as well, because sometimes that's where some of the things are picked up and then conveyed to parents. I'm noticing that there's this change in behavior. What we're looking for is change in behavior in multiple ways, in multiple areas. Something to note, you may see a few changes. It may not be depression, but it's something. So once you're seeing changes in your child's behavior, pay attention. Pay attention, because then we want to figure out what it is. So we could catch it before it gets to crisis mode. We could catch it before we go to full-blown depression or moderate to severe depression. It could be
Tune in, right? Something's up.
Right, something is up. So what we're asking parents to do is to pay attention to your child, get to know your child, have conversations with them, play with them. So you're able to catch those changes as they're occurring and pay attention to them. And sometimes in your conversations with them, you can help them find the words to describe what they're going through, to help you figure out what's really going on with your child.
That's really interesting. And I see you commenting on many times the issue is that they don't have the vocabulary.
Right.
Can you touch a little bit on that? Is there ways that we can help them develop those vocabularies?
Well, I like to talk about feeling faces. I remember when I was in my master's program, in my PhD program, and I was volunteering at a school, and we were having some challenges with some little boys in the kindergarten classroom, and they came, and they knew mad, sad, and unhappy. Mad, sad. There were three they knew. I just remember mad and sad. And so I took out the feeling faces chart and started teaching them the different emotions and examples that went with them, and have them act them out, have them talk about it, and then have them give examples of times when you feel scared, when you feel jealous, when you feel, so all these different words. So it expands their emotion vocabulary to talk about what they're feeling, what they're going through. I remember when I was on one of my practicums, internships, there was a little girl who would come in, and after a while I said, what happened this week? And she'd pick up a face and tell me what happened, So we could do that with our kids. They're online, you can print them out. They're printable feeling faces, free online, that you can help your child to develop that vocabulary about what's going on. Another thing to do is to pay attention to their play. Because play is a language of children. So if there's something that's bothering them that they're trying to work through, it might come out in their play. You may see maybe the Lego people are always sad, or the Lego people are going through something scary, or or the dolls or the trucks or whatever toy your child plays with, especially in elementary, younger ages, you'll see some of these things come out in their play as well. So pay attention to your child's play. When you were children, you do like I'm a doctor, so they're figuring out their world. So also when they're trying to figure out their inner world, you may see it come out in their play.
That makes so much sense. And it sounds to me that the key message here is investigate what's going on with your child. There are different ways of doing so. Having conversations, watching they play, watching their mood. How is it changing? Have they experienced significant changes over the past however amount of time? Something might be up. But then you can look for little signs here and there. That's really helpful.
Right. And I like how you said there may be changes. So changes that may not be important or big to us, maybe monumental to a child. So you may be like, oh, we just moved, or oh, her friend moved away, or his friend is now in another team and they're playing on another team. These things can impact children because you don't know how important that other person was, or the thing was, or the event was to the child, the meaning they have given to that event. So if there's changes that are happening and you notice change in behavior after, then pay attention to those. Because what I'm trying to do is let's catch it before it gets to depression. Let's pay attention. So that prevention piece and that building resilience piece, if we create these supportive factors where we're investigating, as you say, we're connecting with our children, then we can create these supportive factors or supportive barriers to depression prevention.
And my family, my household, I have a 12-year-old and a 9-year-old. And it's interesting because sometimes I don't hear from them all day long, but then at that time, they're really willing to share. And to be honest, that's the time I'm most tired. And then I realized that I personally, Rebecca, need to allocate some time for them to be able to talk, right?
Right.
Because that they might share key elements of their day during bedtime. So that's part of Rebecca's investigative moment with her kids, right? At least that works for me. And I find that sometimes they just want to go to bed. Sometimes they want to share within reason, because we don't want to be past bedtime. So let's start bedtime earlier. Right. But that's an opportunity.
Right. My mom always has, she had this ritual with us when we come home from school. What happened at school today? How was school today? And we've added to that, like, what's something good that happened at school today? What's something that you didn't like that's happened at school
really
today?
neat.
And how do you feel about that? And then you can talk about the good things, because we like to hear the good things. But what happened that wasn't so good? What happened that wasn't so wonderful? So we can start getting ideas of what's happening in our child's emotional and psychological world.
Awesome. Thank you so much. This discussion is so interesting. We're going to take a quick break, but we're going to continue talking about children and depression. So we're taking a quick break. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
In a Canada facing uncertainty,
we believe there's more to life.
from mental health to faith journeys.
From finding purpose to discovering love's perspective.
Hope Channel Canada brings light to life's deepest questions.
Because there's more to your story.
Hope Channel Canada, there's more to life.
Visit hopetv.ca.
Welcome back to Beyond the Surface. We're so glad you joined us for today's episode. And you know what? This show is to support you. We want to hear from you. Do you have a story you want to share with us? Do you have an experience? Do you have suggestions? Is there a specific topic you would like us to cover? We want to hear from you. So write us at info@hopetv.ca. We'll love to read your emails and hear about you. So we're here back with Dr. Lewis. Today we're talking about depression, especially in children. What are other important things for us to know about depression?
So some risk factors similar to adults. You have the biological factors, as we mentioned before, heredity, maybe neurotransmitter deficits, and maybe chronic illness. Maybe the child has a chronic illness. If you have a child who's experiencing cancer or some other chronic illness, that could also increase the risk of developing depression. If the child is being bullied at school, so we're looking at some social factors, bullying at school, if they're not doing well in a particular subject area, and so that can start to question their self-esteem.
If they're struggling at school, could be a risk
Right,
factor.
right. So they're struggling at school, they don't feel well about themselves, especially when you hit the teen years when they're trying to figure out who they are, their identity, and they're looking at what they're good at, what they're not so good at. So if they're struggling in school, it could start impacting self-esteem, and once self-esteem start being impacted, then that could increase risk factors for developing depression. If there's trauma, adverse childhood experiences, so if there has been some type of abuse of any kind with the child, whether it's physical, sexual abuse, neglect, any type, if they were present when there was an unexpected accident and harm came to people that they were present, so a car accident, just even if no one was hurt, they were in a car accident, that could be could trigger feelings of fear and anxiety. And many times we find that sometimes we have that comorbidity, like anxiety coming along with depression, so those anxious feelings. If they are they're starting to like avoid they're avoiding hard things that challenge them a lot, so that's linked with who they think they are, their identity.
And what abilities they think they have or don't have, right?
Right.
That makes sense.
Right, and social factors. We spoke about bullying, discrimination of any kind. We have a huge immigrant population. We have an indigenous population. So if there's bullying based on any of their identities of who they are, where they're from, if there's financial struggle in the home, children pick up on the tensions. And if they're not able to talk about the tensions, because many times adults feel like, they don't know anything. They're too young to have depression. And that's why sometimes we miss it as adults, because we think they're too young. What are they worried about? We're the ones worried about the money, but they know. They pick up on the things that's happening in the home, stressful things in the home.
They have a very attuned radar. They pick up on things that we're not even aware we're showing, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And because, especially in the younger years, they're so egocentric, they believe a lot of the things is, oh, is it my fault? Is it me? Am I causing that?
Parents' divorce. Sometimes kids will think they're the cause of the divorce.
Right.
What is something that might lead to depression? Parents' divorce.
Right, that could be a challenge as well, especially if it's acrimonious. There's a lot of change happening, change that they have no control over. So imagine you in a situation where you have no control over the situation, how you may feel. Then double that, because we're talking about a child who is also in a position of powerlessness, right? So that it could be a risk factor as well. So if there is tension in schools, we might think it's just children's spat.
Little drama.
Right,
Yeah.
but drama can cause problems too, especially if it breaks up friendship groups and they feel betrayed. We think it's like big betrayal where you lose your love, your love of your life or something like that. But friendships, those are important, key things for them. So they could feel betrayed in a friendship situation. So there are many different things that could be happening.
And we as parents or adults, we may consider trivial. We need to look through their lens.
Yes. Right. And it could impact them, impact their emotional life, their psychological life, their social life, and increase the risk.
That's so helpful. And it sounds to me there's a lot of stigma that we carry towards children. Like, they don't have depression. They don't need to worry about finances. Are there other stigmas that you can touch on?
So some of the other things is that children don't need to go to counseling. They are why would you need that kind of help? Just talk to me or talk to your father, your mom, or a loved
Go
one.
on a play date. That will sort it
Right,
out.
go play. Although play helps, it's not the full, there's more that may need to be done. So as I was reading a study that says some of the teens is the stigma surrounding seeking help that prevents them from seeking help.
Really? I wouldn't think that would affect teens.
So it's the stigma, maybe what their friends might think about them, what their family may think about them. What does this mean about me that I need to go seek help? So the stigma surrounding depression or other mental health issues that we need to be changing our mind. We need to change the conversations that we're having. And one thing I like one statement I have here is, what is a small, meaningful dialogue that you could have this week with a young person to talk about depression or other mental health things, to normalize it. To normalize it so that they know they can seek help, they can come to you when something doesn't feel right, so that you can point them in the direction of resources.
That is really powerful, because you're trying to make that bridge,
Right.
It's the relational piece of, let's talk about it. Let's
Right.
look for help. Instead of creating more stigma or barriers, no, you're a teenager. You may be facing depression. You're a child. You may be having symptoms. Let's look for it. Let's support it. Yeah, I really appreciate that.
Yeah.
We're going to invite our friends Mike and Pam to share their thoughts about depression in children, and we'll be right back to continue our discussion. So please, Mike and Pam, we want to hear from you. What are your thoughts about today's episode?
Many years ago, when my daughter was a teenager, she worked at Camp Frenda up in the Muskokas here in Ontario. And I wanted to spend as much time with her as possible, so I became a volunteer. And that first year, I worked on ski dock because I remembered the great experience I had as specialized camp. Well, there was an unusual mix of kids that were there for ski camp. And there was one particular young lady who was exceptionally angry and was always kind of lippy and belligerent. And she was pushing my buttons. And I thought, I don't know what's going on. I could react to her misbehaving, or I could just keep coming back and finding out what the root cause was. She was sad, she was moody, she was depressed. I found out that her family had gone through a divorce. Neither parent wanted her. She was angry, she was depressed, she was thinking that nobody truly loved her. And for me, the best way that I could love her and care for her was to be present. And so I stayed in there, as harsh as it was, as rough as she was with me. And she finally started to trust. And that was the breaking point for her to now be able to open herself up. I wasn't going to be the one that left like her parents. And so it allowed her to get closer to me. So much so that she loved me so much that she tried to throw me in the water at the end of ski camp, which was always a ritual.
I had a similar experience
Yes.
when I was a young man teaching a Bible at a Christian high school. There was one young lady who was just always angry, always angry. And I couldn't figure out why she was angry until I overheard one of my fellow pastors talking about the divorce that her parents are going through. And so now the reason for the anger became clear to me, and I was able to relax and not be defensive over this, but instead to give special attention to her. But I see her every now and again on Facebook still. But it was good for me to know what has caused the anger, because when it comes to children in grief, children with depression, children in pain, behavior is caused. There's a reason that they're behaving as they're behaving. And so when I know that a child has got a change in behavior, a change in mood, but we're finding anger or anxiety, there's a reason for that. If I look for the reason, now I can be of help to the child. Anger is caused and behavior is caused. So look for the reason and you can help a child.
Thank you, Pam and Mike, for your insights. So, Dr. Lewis, we're wrapping up our show, but we have a few moments for you to share your final thoughts. Anything else you want to add to our discussion today?
Children are whole people. They're not just behaviors or people who obey us when we, give them instructions, but they're whole people. So when we're looking at depression, we should also look at the whole person. Are they getting enough sleep? Are they eating properly? Especially when they hit the teen years and start to make food on their own. We need to ensure that they're still getting a balanced diet. Are they going outside enough to play? I know there's a link between screen time and depression as well. So increased screen time can also lead, especially the social media, where there is that comparison and impacts identity when you hit the teen years especially, and who you need to be and what you need to wear and how you need to look, all those things. So we need to be paying attention to their consumption of social media. So we also need to be paying attention to whether they're getting enough sunlight and exercise and movement. So they're whole people, and they're also their spiritual life. For those people who are religious or spiritual, very important. Are they connecting to that higher power? Are they connecting to God if you're from the Christian perspective? How are they finding meaning for their life, purpose for their life? As small as they are, they know, they have dreams and aspirations. And many of them, especially when they're in their teen years, are talking about, and why am I here? What is my purpose? What am I doing? And many of these questions can be answered from that faith perspective. And it brings support for them. They may not come to you as a parent to talk to, but they may go to the pastor, the priest, the youth leader, youth director. So having that community of support is important, that auntie, that uncle. So we need to also ensure that we create a support system that they will find somebody that they can speak with. And from that faith perspective, we're looking at the acceptance by their peers when we're in that faith community. Being from a faith perspective helps you to understand problems differently, like reframing that we spoke about, enhancing coping skills, leads to spiritual growth and self-esteem, which is so important, especially for our teens. Knowing who they are in Christ from a Christian perspective, or from other faith traditions. Who are they in their the higher power, the power that they believe in? That's very important to connect them, because these are some protective factors or factors that can help them as they're walking that healing journey. So that connectedness to themselves, to others, the environment, and to God or that higher power that they believe in. Very important.
That's wonderful. You wrapped us up thinking we need to look at kids as whole people, right? They're whole persons, and there are different aspects to them that we need to be paying attention. I really appreciate your insights, your thoughts on children, especially in terms of mental health and depression. And I look forward to having you in future episodes.
I look forward to it. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. And thank you very much for watching us at Beyond the Surface. I really hope to see you next time.